There's no obvious signs of trauma, but there's drag marks in the ditch, footprints, tire tracks. Seems like this dude was dead before he got here and they dumped him in the ditch.
We were all kind of getting ready to go home, and then the call came in. At that point in time, all we had was an individual basically lying on the side of the road, obviously deceased. This was a remote road way out in the middle of nowhere. Somebody specifically, purposefully had to come down this road and dump this body.
The state of his body was in full rigor. He hadn't started decomposition. There were no bugs present on or around him. So it was fairly fresh. It was probably within 12 hours from the time he was killed.
We started looking at social media and just immediately realized that this was not Nathaniel Jackson. This was his brother, Levante Jackson.
It had rained that day, and the ground was soft, and there was obvious tire tracks leading up to where the body was dumped, and we could see that he was drugged and dropped on the side of the road.
There's a pudding cup with fresh pudding on the ground. It's not deteriorated very much. Pudding dries out after a while.
We didn't know if it was related or not related at the time, but we went ahead and seized it.
Our next step was to find out who he associates with. And what we did determine is that he had a girlfriend and the mother of his child, Chelsea Martin.
Once we got her in, I felt really good that she was not involved in his death whatsoever. Chelsea started telling us he had been not running with the greatest crowd of people, so to speak, including this female named Lydia Riggs, basically pointing out that Levante had last been seen with Lydia.
Lydia had texted that herself, Wonder Bread, and David were all there when the murder took place. Lydia said she was there in Wonder's room when Levante died. We learned that Zachary Whitcomb was a 19-year-old petty criminal. He had been in trouble for small stuff before. David Adair was a 26-year-old convicted felon with a history of violence. Lydia Riggs was the girlfriend of David Adair. Our confidential source told us once they realized that Levante was dead, the suspects all began to panic. The only person they knew they could persuade to help them get rid of the body was Mark Brannon.
He wanted to talk to me and kind of clear his name, I guess.
Just have a seat right there. Where's your car at now?
Honestly, man, I don't know. I'm worried that I'm gonna get in trouble for something I didn't do, and honestly, man, to be honest,
I'm
I
just
don't care
asking
about
you,
that
dude,
anymore.
where the car's at.
Even though,
I mean, okay, let me ask you this. If you're in my position, right, we meet up with you, and ironically, that car is not with
Oh,
you.
yeah, that's gonna look bad, right?
So, because to me, it looks like you're trying to hide evidence.
After I got Mark's vehicle, we were able to identify his tires to tire impressions on the crime scene. In the back, we found that pudding cup, which we were able to relate to the pudding cup that we located at the crime scene.
All right, man. So here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna hold on to the car because that was used in that incident.
I understand.
Okay? You understand that
I
part?
understand completely. I'm always trying to help people, man. That's all I ever try to do. I mean that,
Right.
like from the bottom of my heart. That's all I ever try to do.
Right. Who called you?
It was Wonder Bread. I don't
Wonder
even
Bread
know.
called you?
I don't even know his real name. I had met Wonder Bread maybe 2 weeks before. One time, I had met David the day before, and I knew Lydia was there, and I wanted to protect her because I knew she didn't need to be around those people, man.
So what happened after you got there?
I pulled in, and they told me to back up, and they were gonna put clothes in the back, and they did. They put a bunch of clothes, and they put a big duffel bag and all this.
Okay. So they told you to come to that house. Okay. They tell you why?
They did not tell me.
They never gave you a reason to come?
They never did.
You never asked?
I swear, no.
But at no point they told you where they were going?
No, I swear, no. They did not. Until we passed a dirt road, did they even tell me that we were going to go down a dirt road. And
Okay.
until we were right there and said, hey, we're going to go for a walk. Stop the car. They got their stuff and they told me to go down, wait 5 minutes, and come back up. And so I went down and I sat there with Lydia for a minute, just like calming her, like saying, everything's going to be all right. Like, why are you crying? And she wouldn't tell me anything.
So Lydia was crying in the car? Where were the other two?
They were off with their bags.
So, whenever you're talking with Lydia, what did she tell you?
Nothing. She didn't tell me anything about this. She said, I'm scared, I'm scared. And I thought she meant, I'm scared of them.
You have your phone on you?
Yeah, but it's dead. Damn
Well, let me see it. We can charge it.
it. That's okay. Here.
It's not a big deal, dude.
Okay, I'll tell you. Here.
Here, the best way this is gonna go down, dude, is if you're gonna be transparent with me, okay? Because I'm trying to be transparent
Yes,
with
sir,
you,
yes, sir.
but right now I'm getting a lot of whenever you're
No,
telling me
it's
that
not-
phone's
It's
dead.
just the phone dead thing.
The only way I can help you is if you are very transparent with me and you're honest with me, okay? When did you realize that there was a body in the back of your car?
The next day, like, I knew it somehow. I just knew.
You're gonna be arrested, and you're gonna be charged with abuse of a corpse.
Abuse of a court. What's that
Yeah.
mean?
It means you had the chance to call 911 and you failed to do that. Go ahead and stand up.
Yes, sir. May I get a drink?
Let you throw that wall.
Let's just go back from the beginning, kind of just the facts of what happened, what you saw, what you know.
I had a bandana in my pocket, and David tells Levante, get my flag. And Levante gets up, so I stand up. And me and Levante start wrestling.
David Adair told Levante to take Zachary's flag, which is his gang handkerchief. It's a sign of disrespect.
Was Levante like straddled you on top of you, holding you down? Was he holding your arms down, or was he holding your face
He just
down?
held my arms. And then David hopped on. He just came around with a chokehold. And then Lydia jumped on too to help quiet his feet, because I was getting thrown around. We put a gag in his mouth so he couldn't scream. And we put him sleeping bag to him on the back porch, and we started making phone calls for a ride. I always know this happened.
No, man.
David finally had gone home to crash, and his mom called in to the sheriff's office because they had been to her house before. Our guys went in, secured David without incident.
I'm sorry,
It's okay. There's tissues there if you need tissue.
but after they put Levante on the floor, he started choking him out. They kept saying, stop, 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 and trying to get them to both stop, and I wasn't big enough to get him to stop. Levante kept telling him to stop. And David untied him, and they tried to give Levante CPR, and it just wouldn't work.
What if I told you Wonder Bread's story wasn't quite the same as yours, that you were a little more involved?
What?
Did you sit on him?
I put my knee on him when I was trying to get David off. That's what I did.
You just put your weight on his legs to make him keep his legs down?
On one.
You helped kill this guy.
Me, Lydia, and Zach, we were in the bedroom. We were all doing a bump. I don't know what the Zach wanted to do.
Right. But at some point you jumped.
I was trying to break him up.
Okay. Do you remember what Lydia was doing?
She was sitting on the bed and then she jumped on with us.
Okay. So you went limp?
Yeah.
Okay. You choked him out.
I choked him out. I choked him out.
David Adair pled guilty to second-degree murder and received 30 years in prison. Lydia Riggs pled guilty to second-degree murder and received 15 years in prison. Zachary Whitcomb pled guilty to second-degree murder and got 20 years in prison. And Mark Brandon pled guilty to evidence tampering, abuse of a corpse, and hindering apprehension and received 20 years in prison.